Listen, I got to get into this prediction because you go into this roundtable discussion with Tim McManus, our own, who covers the Eagles, Todd Archer covers the Cowboys, John Keim, who covers the Commanders, and you, who covered the Giants. And so the question is, who wins the NFC East in 2025? Now, McManus goes first, and he says Daniel's one of the best young quarterbacks, the Commanders, blah, 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 blah. Well, he didn't even mention Dallas. While the gap between the two teams appears to have narrowed, the Eagles still have the talent advantage and deserve to be favorites heading into the year. All right? Now we get to Archer. He says Eagles. And the Keim, he says Eagles. Now there's Jordan Ranaan. Now let me just read what you wrote here. Let's get first of all, you got people in this town crazy. You know you do. Let's get a little bit crazy here because that's the recent history of the NFC East. You write. No, not the Giants. That gap is massive. But since everyone is down on the Cowboys this season, it only makes sense they surprise and win the division. Jordan, justify your prediction for me.
First off, I got to be honest and give full disclosure. So the Giants held their mini camp a week after everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm filling out this answer, I'm going into the file. We have a joint file, and looking at it, I already see what the other answers are, right? So now I'm sitting there saying, well, let's be a little different. And I do think, though, on a serious note, the logic is the Cowboys, everyone, I get it. They had a bad year. We don't think they're real serious contenders. And I still don't think they're a real serious Super Bowl contender. But the Cowboys, when Dak Prescott plays, win games. Like going into last year, who was the biggest contender for the Eagles going into the season? It was the Cowboys, right?
Yeah.
And what changed? Dak Prescott got injured. They had a big year, and everything went right for the Eagles. Remember, you had a lot of questions about the Eagles' defense going into last year. They ended up being the number one defense in the league.
Right.
So, yes, I do. Look, I don't think the Cowboys are ahead of the Eagles. Like, if you tell me which team would I think is more likely to make a Super Bowl run, clearly I still think it's the Eagles. But to discount the Cowboys in the division and the idea that they can win, 12 or, there is 17 games. 13 might be a lot, but, because the division in general has a tough schedule. There's going to be some tough games for everybody in the division.
Right.
But if you tell me the Cowboys got 12 wins and a couple things went right for them and a couple things didn't go right for the Eagles, and I'm also a believer, by the way, that, and I love Jaden Daniels. I think he's going to be a star. Look what happened to C.J. Stroud, who I also think is going to be a star. He had, it was a tough second year for him. It's not just usually a meteoric rise and everything goes right for you. This is the NFL. I think there could be a little regression with Jaden Daniels in regards to the success that he has. I mean, they made the championship game as a rookie. So, to expect that to just continue and everything to go smoothly and everyone to stay healthy, as long as Dak Prescott stays healthy, the Cowboys are going to be a dangerous team. And that was my point. So, hey, why not, be a little different? We're always wrong with the NFC.
So basically, in your heart, you really don't believe it.
I mean, I do believe that I believe that they are going to be a contender for the division. I really do. I mean, Dak Prescott with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, and Michael Parsons, and they still have a good pass rush, and then they could rush the passer on defense. I think they have. They are going to be a double-digit win team. Now, what that means and where they fall in, I don't know. But I mean, if we just sat here and went chalk, it would be boring and everything. So I felt, why not? Give it a whirl.
I got you. And listen,
attention, including Eagles fans.
You have experience in Philadelphia, so you know what you're going to do to these people when you write something like that. But you do make it sound logical argument that there's high-end talent on the roster, and they were good enough for at least 12 wins each of the previous 3 years that Prescott played. So it's if he's going to play, they're going to be good. Now, interestingly enough, the Eagles' win total is 11.5. And I think that's short, and I think I'm going under with that. I think the Eagles win the division with 11 wins, but you could very well make the case if the Cowboys can win 12 games, they can win the division.
Who's to say, the Cowboys can't win 11 when they're tiebreaker? Who knows? Who knows how that plays out? So, I think they're right in the mix. To discount them, which I think a lot of people have, is kind of foolish. They had some, it happens to teams, right? You have injuries in the NFL. And there's certain injuries you're just not going to be able to overcome, right?
Uh-huh.
And they also made some mistakes last year. We know that. They left themselves super thin. Their running game was just non-existent, completely non-existent. But if you look at I don't understand. I do understand. It's a recency bias thing, right? But because they had a bad year last year, all of a sudden people are like completely discount them. I think if we went back and listened to the tapes last year, there were people that were still looking at the Cowboys as a threat and a serious threat. So really not that much has changed, in my opinion, in that regard.
All right, so you obviously don't feel the Eagles will win like 13 and go 13-4. So what would hold you back from that for next year? What are the factors, as a man who covers the league, why the Eagles won't replicate what they did last year?
It's just hard to do every year. You have to have everything. Look, I've seen Saquon Barkley, and I knew what kind of player Saquon Barkley was. But the reality is, it doesn't always go so smoothly. He's had injuries throughout his career. Like, guys get injured. And I'm not saying Saquon. I'm saying the team in general. Things might not work out so well, as perfectly. They did have some changes. They do have to rebuild a little bit on defense, right? They lost some of their depth. That's definitely a concern. So you have those injuries, it becomes a little bit harder. And the schedule is a big deal. So I do think it creates a little parity in the division. Every team in the division plays a super hard schedule, including the Giants, which is kind of crazy to think about because they won 3 games last year. They have one of the hardest schedules in the NFL, right? Just the way that it worked out. They play the NFC North. There is no pushover in the NFC North, right? The last place team is the Chicago Bears last year. And I think we all think, well, the Bears could at least have a chance to be dangerous and good, right? Mm-hmm. You play the AFC West. That's Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and the Denver Broncos team that, at very least, is very good defensively, and Bo Nix was great last year. So that's 7 games right there, and then you're in intra-division games. So the schedule is a big thing. It's going to create some parity. And the NFC East has proven to be, Mike, we cannot deny it, completely unpredictable.
We're talking to Jordan Ranaan. He covers the Giants for ESPN.com. Jordan, what is it like covering that team?
It's been terrible.
You got all kinds of story angles on how bad they are, but what's it like covering them?
It's been bad the last couple of years because they just have no hope by mid-October. But I do think that they finally seem like they're headed in the right direction. Like, we don't know if Jackson Dart's good, but if he happens to be a good quarterback, they're building a defense that at least should scare some opposing teams. The pass rush, their front 7, their front 4 in particular, is something that opposing teams now have to worry about. So yeah, it's been a rough go. Giants fans have been. I know Philly fans can be negative, but Giants fans have just been sort of despondent these last couple of years, and it's kind of been tough covering the team. You almost want them to be good for relevancy's sake. It's good for a year or two to be done basically by mid-October.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about it. TV's not going to be calling on me every day, but at some point you're like, well, okay. It's 12 years. It's kind of enough. You know what I'm saying, Mike?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Years. You almost have Philadelphia fans feeling sorry for that team, which is the ultimate insult.
How about this? The Eagles have never had a stretch like this, in your lifetime, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So how are Giants feel? Listen, I know how they felt about Saquon last year. How are they going to feel when Daniel Jones wins Comeback Player of the Year?
Yeah, that'll be an absolute kill. Brian Dable's career, he better hope that Daniel Jones is not a stud in Indianapolis.
He is.
That would be the ultimate.
I swear to God, he's going to be a stud.
You think so?
Yes, I think he's going to have a monster year for some reason.
Oh my God! Yeah.
But don't take delight. Saquon will have 1,000 less yards than last year, so they'll take delight in that, right?
No, I don't think that would change it at all. Okay, Daniel Jones, they're all convinced that he stinks, and he was. How about this? The Giants are so convinced that Daniel Jones stinks and that he was the problem. They brought back 10 of 11 offensive starters aside from Daniel Jones.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how much they're betting on. They're betting on Russell Wilson, who's on his 4th team in 5 years, to be that much better than Daniel Jones, and that be the answer to their offense.
Yeah. Well, Jordan, you put yourself out there. It's one of those predictions that you can only look good
Yeah,
if it doesn't happen, nobody remembers that you said it anyway. So,
it's like one of those things. You know the meme. You throw the grenade. You let it go, and you just walk away.
Yes,
that's what I had to do.
For the record, you have more A's in your name than I have vowels in my name, and I have 12 letters in my name.
Right. A lot of vowels. It's very confusing for people. Let me tell you, they have trouble with the vowels.
You got it, buddy. Hey, listen, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Anytime. You guys have a great summer.
There he is, Jordan Ranaan. Good dude. He covers the Giants for ESPN.com. We'll take a break. And on the other side, we're going to play a clip of the arbitration decision way back, what was it, 1992? 1992, June 30th, this very day, 33 years ago, when Larry Bertuzzi, the arbitrator, awarded Eric Lindros to the Philadelphia Flyers after a long-winded legal presentation. We'll hear a little of that after this.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out our video. If you want more from the Mike Missanelli Show, somewhere on this screen, there is somewhere where you can hit the playlist. Keep interacting with us.